12. Trespassers throw house party in mansion. In 2022, a wealthy homeowner from northern Florida was outraged after a random person broke into their $8 million mansion and threw a party for over 200 people. Speaking with Fox News 2 months after the unauthorized event, the owner described how the guests helped themselves to whatever they wanted at the Santa Rosa beach property, including her jewelry, clothing, handbags, and what was inside her fridge. Disturbing video clips from that night revealed the young attendees turned the foyer of the 5-bedroom, 8-bathroom home into a boxing ring. They also drank a 1,500 bottle of Ace of Spades champagne, along with other expensive liquor. In addition to being angry about the break-in, the mother of 4 and her oil executive husband were furious when no arrests were made, especially since many of the trespassers' faces are clearly visible in the footage. Several of the partygoers were allegedly identified, yet for some reason the police failed to take action against them. There was also obvious evidence of a break-in, considering the fact that the intruders had to pry off 3 locks just to get inside. In fact, they even planned the event ahead of time by passing out flyers for the party. The crowd dispersed when security finally showed up, with many guests snatching items as souvenirs on their way out. Some of these included a $3,500 Yves Saint Laurent purse, a football signed by Peyton Manning, and a PlayStation 4. The family returned to find their Palacio home trashed and their daughter's American Girl doll collection all over their roof. Around the same time, the family complained to the news. Authorities announced that the suspects would finally face charges in connection to the incident. And while it may do very little to restore the homeowner's sense of safety, at least there's a chance at justice. 11. Shannon Cool Mom O'Connor. In late 2020, officials at Los Gatos High School in California's Bay Area received a report about a mom named Shannon O'Connor, who was allegedly throwing wild drinking parties for underage teenagers. The complaint came from a concerned parent who said that her daughter overdosed on edibles in the presence of O'Connor, who was also accused of buying illegal substances for minors. 2 months later, in 2021, another parent sent the school an email about O'Connor, including accusations that the mom in question had inappropriate contact with multiple partygoers, and on more than one occasion too. The parent also claimed that the woman groomed adolescents for her own sick pleasure. An investigation found solid evidence that O'Connor told the teens who attended her parties not to tell their parents. On one occasion, a young man went back to his house in such a highly intoxicated state that he was projectile vomiting everywhere. He also nearly drowned in his family's bathtub. Paul Robinson, the acting interim principal at the time, sent staffers an email describing the problem as something parents expected the school to handle when it was more appropriate for the police department to deal with. But O'Connor's inappropriate conduct even extended onto school property, including on one occasion when she allowed a student to drive her SUV without a legal driver's license. A car-surfing teen subsequently fell off the vehicle and was apparently vomiting 4 days after, thanks to a concussion. Finally, in October 2021, almost a year after the first complaint was filed, O'Connor was hit with 39 criminal charges relating to her absurd behavior in the presence of teenagers. She's being held without bail while she awaits trial, and things apparently aren't going well for her at the county facility, where she was allegedly beaten up by 5 of her cellmates in early 2023. 10. Rowdy Rapper. In early 2022, police received a call complaining about a bunch of people throwing bottles at passing cars from a house party in Miami. Officers got to the scene and found the rapper, I Love Memphis, shirtless and absolutely reeking of booze. According to law enforcement, his speech was slurred and he seemed obviously intoxicated out of his mind. He failed to identify himself after being asked for his name multiple times, so the officers tried to take him into custody. They later accused the musician of screaming and physically resisting when they tried to handcuff him and put him in the back of a squad car. When they finally got the young man in a vehicle, he allegedly called one of the officers an inappropriate name and hurled a few other insults. Because of this, I Love Memphis was booked on charges of resisting arrest and disorderly intoxication. 9. Carolyn Winans. After getting a call about an out-of-control party one night in 2014, police officers in Naples, Florida busted the host, 18-year-old Mario Winans. According to responding officers, the young woman came to the front door with the help of 2 friends since she was too inebriated to answer it by herself. In fact, she could barely even stand without help. Mario then gave the officers a phone number belonging to her mother, 56-year-old Carolyn Winans. When Carolyn answered their call, she seemed surprised about the party and claimed she was out of town at the time. She gave the officers permission to kick out anyone who wasn't supposed to be at the house, but as they went in and began searching the dwelling, they actually found Carolyn herself inside, along with 20 underage guests. After realizing that she'd been caught red-handed, Carolyn tried defending her decision to throw the party, claiming that the guests were safer under her roof and her watchful eye than they would have been if they'd gone somewhere else. But the police saw the situation much differently, and they made it a point to mention that Carolyn was lucky none of the partygoers tried to drive home drunk that night. Because if that had happened, and if anyone had gotten in a crash and hurt someone, she would have faced a lot more serious charges. Even without that, she was hit with 26 counts of selling, giving, or serving alcohol to a minor, while Mario was charged with hosting an open house party. While the outcome of the case is unclear, it seems as if the mother-daughter duo has moved past the wild incident. The elder Winans' career as a successful realtor has remained intact, while it appears as though Mario is working hard to be an actress in Los Angeles. 8. The Boylan Family. Law enforcement arrested 3 members of a family in 2017 after getting a report about possible criminal activity at a house party in Williamsburg, Michigan. Grand Traverse County Sheriff's deputies were told that the illegal celebration happened at the home of Jeffrey and Dwayne Boylan and their 18-year-old daughter, Hannah. According to records, Jeffrey was a sports coach for a local high school at the time. Several teens who claimed to be at the party told investigators that they paid a $5 fee for pizza and booze. They said the family's basement bar was fully stocked with adult beverages, and the people were playing a couple of drinking games. There were also rumors about Jeffrey having inappropriate contact with one of the party guests that night. But because the person was of legal age, no charges were brought against him for it, which seems wrong if you ask us. The family was charged with selling alcohol to minors, and Dwayne and Hannah each face an additional charge of allowing a minor to consume alcohol. Dwayne ultimately pleaded guilty to 1 count of furnishing alcohol to a minor, which came with a short jail sentence of up to 30 days. Jeffrey pleaded guilty to 3 counts of furnishing alcohol to a minor, and he faced up to 60 days in jail. He also left his position as a high school sports coach before they would have to fire him. Hannah took a plea deal and pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of being a minor in possession of alcohol. In exchange for her plea, she got a deferred sentence, which means she had to abide by certain rules and avoid further legal trouble for a set period of time. 7. Partygoer wakes up in wrong place. A Scottish man went to a house party in April 2019 and ended up passing out on the sofa, only to wake up at a house he didn't recognize at all. Obviously, he must have entered the home in a drunken state, and he awoke to 2 strangers standing over him, confused. According to a video that went viral on social media, the man left a party with plans to grab a cab to take him home. But the taxi never showed up, so he decided to return to the party, except he went to the wrong house. He made something to eat and passed out, completely unaware that he was in a stranger's home. Luckily, the household members saw the humor in the situation. Instead of calling the police and getting him arrested, which they probably could have done if they wanted to, the couple who lived at the house simply woke the man up and asked him who he was, and he responded that he was at the party the night before. The homeowner explained to the confused visitor that there was no party at the home, at which point he realized he must have entered the wrong house. Whoops. 6. Mormon mom loses moral compass. Rachel Lenhart was a 35-year-old mother of 5. She was a once devout Mormon and served as a Sunday school teacher when she decided to host a house party at her Evans, Georgia home in 2015. She threw the bash for her underage daughter and the young woman's friends, and was later accused of letting the guests drink alcohol and play naked twister. After that, Lenhart allegedly went into a bathroom with an 18-year-old man for some intimate, private time. It may sound like things couldn't have gotten worse from that point forward, but they actually did. According to several witnesses, Lenhart put on a rather obscene performance in front of minors in the living room after she came out from her bathroom session with the young boy. She realized her behavior was unacceptable after being confronted and vowed to quit drinking, a habit she picked up after separating from her husband. Lenhart eventually started attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and told her sponsor about the things she did at the party. Unable to keep silent about the disturbing and illegal details, the sponsor reported Lenhart to the Columbia County Sheriff's Office, and an investigation was officially launched. Authorities ultimately charged her with 2 counts of contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and she'll lose custody of all 5 of her children pending the outcome of the case. Lenhart was sentenced to 6 years probation. Through her attorney, she reassured the public that she was committed to staying sober and getting the help she needed to stop her from behaving in such an unacceptable manner ever again. An anonymous source close to the woman told the New York Daily News that part of Lenhart's problem with alcohol could be traced to her upbringing in the Mormon church, which has strict rules against drinking. She had little to no exposure to alcohol before she started drinking as an adult, and didn't understand her limits like a more experienced drinker who experienced in their youth might. Regardless of whether or not the handful of bad decisions she made can be blamed entirely on alcohol, it was clearly a wise decision for her to quit the bottle. 5. Floor collapses at roof party. One night in 2022, an estimated 150 teens were at an 18-year-old's birthday party at a home in Arapahoe County, Colorado, when the guests began jumping up and down in unison. In a horrifying turn of events that was entirely captured on camera, they bounced up and down so hard that the force of their combined jumping caused the floor to cave in and send the partygoers plunging down into the basement. A harrowing call between first responders described the confusion of the scene as officers tried figuring out what actually happened. One of the partygoers could be heard saying that the police thought there were people trapped in the basement and that they noticed the distinct odor of natural gas coming up. According to the sheriff's office, the party was thrown in honor of the homeowner's grandson. Cass Henry, who attended the bash with his brother AJ, told local station KKTV that they could hear the floor breaking apart well before it caved in. He said that he found out about the party through social media and that it simply got out of hand since too many people showed up. Henry broke his ankle in the collapse and was among a handful of guests who were injured, none of which were life-threatening, thankfully. As it turned out, the collapse severed a gas line and caused a leak, hence the horrible smell. Luckily, the gas was turned off in time to prevent any further damage or injury. But the house was declared unfit for occupancy after the accident, and the homeowners had no choice but to move out while it was being repaired. And while it isn't exactly an everyday occurrence for a floor to collapse during a wild house party, it's not actually unusual either. The same thing happened in 2018 at an off-campus apartment complex near Clemson University in South Carolina, where dozens of college students gathered for a homecoming party and were jumping up and down. This collapse ended up a little worse than this one in Colorado though, and 30 people had to be rushed to the hospital. None of their injuries were life-threatening and nobody became trapped in wreckage. It seems both situations were close calls. 4. Tough-talking teens become threatening. when two girls started fighting at a house party in Laredo, Texas in early 2023. A pair of young men allegedly pulled out guns. According to a police report, 18-year-old Miguel Turrubiates was armed with a BB gun, and 19-year-old Elias Benavides also had a weapon. Officers responded to the scene after getting a report about an aggravated assault. When they arrived, a woman told them that her nephew was throwing a party at the home when an altercation suddenly broke out between 3 women and 2 men. She said she was trying to break up the fight when Turrubiates pulled a gun out of nowhere and started wildly waving it around, threatening people. Thankfully, a fellow partygoer managed to disarm him and noticed that the weapon was just a BB gun. At that point, Elias Benavides allegedly tried to pull his own gun from his waistband, but he got stuck and someone punched him in the face before he could get it fully out. He fell to the ground according to an affidavit and then stood up and pulled the gun. The woman who spoke to responding officers said that Benavides pointed it in her direction and shot at the ground several times. He then accidentally shot himself in the leg and fled the scene. Authorities tracked down and charged Benavides with 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. They also arrested Turrubiates on suspicion of terroristic threat of imminent serious bodily injury. Seems like these guys won't be invited to the next get-together. 3. Annual Mayhem event lives up to its name. Mayhem at Lake George is the name of an annual party that happens in Lake George, Florida, about 40 miles west of Daytona. For the most part, it's like any other typical lakeside celebration. Dozens of boats gather near the shore, and hundreds of people flock to enjoy music and drinks. But the festivities took an unusual turn back in 2022, when a violent fight between multiple partygoers broke out, leaving one man seriously injured. Shocking footage of the violence shows several males throwing punches and tackling each other near the DJ deck. Recordings of radio conversations between first responders revealed that one man actually fell unconscious and was bleeding profusely from his face. He was taken to land by boat and then airlifted to a hospital to get treated. Volusia County deputies and members from a few other law enforcement agencies responded to the scene. They issued 38 boat citations and 108 warnings in the initial aftermath of the brawl, and 5 people were arrested, including 2 for disorderly conduct and 3 for boating while drunk. Authorities said that more charges could come pending the outcome of an ongoing investigation, but it's unclear whether any arrests have been made. Shortly after the incident, the press reported that the injured man planned to press charges against the person who hurt him. During an interview with local news station West 2, Sheriff Mike Chitwood described the ordeal as something that can usually be expected when there's a large number of people and alcohol involved. 2. Parents arrested in Prem student tragedy. In May 2022, students from a local Prem school were partying at a home in Shelton, Connecticut, when what was supposed to be a fun night quickly took a devastating turn. The guests were drinking, and not surprisingly, at some point, a fight broke out between 2 men. Before anything serious could happen, the altercation was broken up and the party ended. The teens apparently weren't ready to call it a night yet, so the fight continued elsewhere. The chaos finally ended with the fatal stabbing of a young man named James McGrath. Police arrested the suspected killer, Rowdy Rapper, on suspicion of murder, and the investigations continued well into 2023. In March, authorities announced that they arrested the parents of the student who hosted the party. 59-year-old Paul Leifer was charged with letting minors possess alcohol. His wife, 51-year-old Susanna Leifer, was hit with the same charge, as well as an additional count of second-degree reckless endangerment. The exact nature and extent of the Leifer's involvement is still unclear. According to an affidavit, Susanna had some questionable interactions with some of the guests before the stabbing. After the fight, the couple allegedly went to another party nearby where the stabbing happened. 1. Models and mind-altering substances. In 2023, after attending a party in Las Vegas, several models believed that they had been drugged without their knowledge. One woman who reported her suspicions to the Las Vegas Metro Police Department said that she and others were hired as atmosphere models. In other words, they were paid to add beauty and excitement to the event. The party was initially supposed to be at a nightclub, but it happened at a warehouse after a last-minute change of venue. During the event, the woman said that a man who identified himself as Leon Gong ordered coffee to the models. It seemed harmless, so they took him up on the offer, but they started to feel strange immediately after they drank the coffees, even though the drinks were never out of their line of sight. Gong then approached the women with a platter holding party favors. In other words, illegal drugs like cocaine and ecstasy. The model, who filed the initial complaint, revealed that she went to a drug testing facility right after the event, where she tested positive for MDMA. She also showed the police text messages she exchanged with the person who hired her, who reportedly blamed the incident on a miscommunication due to a language barrier between Gong and the models. Using the information provided, including Instagram photos, investigators identified the suspect as 38-year-old Zhu Gong, not Leon. Officers arrested Gong at his workplace and hit him with several charges relating to poison and possession of a controlled substance. Would you rather wake up on a stranger's couch after partying at their neighbor's house the night before, or witness a serious crime at a party and have to testify in court? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.